Welcome to part 2 of Christina Soontornvat, Legends of Lotus Island, The Guardian Test. Illustrated by Kevin Hong. This is part 2. We are starting on chapter 14, which is page 67. Please enjoy the second part of this amazing story. Let me just adjust my camera here really quick. There we go. And we are ready. The first week of training went pretty much like that first day. Wake up early, go to classes, eat a gigantic lunch, chores in the afternoon. Our classes continue to be, well, kind of boring. I didn't complain, but I couldn't blame my fellow trainees for being impatient. Brother Chalad, aren't we supposed to be healing the animals? Asked Miko. Not just watching them? Healing begins with paying attention, said Brother Chalad. So take your clipboard and write down everything these slugs are trying to tell you. In hand class, we still hadn't thrown a single kick or punch, but we had climbed the 300 steps that led up to the Sunrise Temple a dozen times. Master Dew said it would build our strength and stamina. So far, I had built blisters on both feet and my legs felt like jelly. Unlike Cherry, I was glad we weren't fighting, because my muscles were too sore to do anything but sit. I also missed Grandma and Grandpa so much it made my stomach hurt. But I knew that if I passed the first test, I would make them so proud. I wanted that more than anything. I also wanted to stick it to Rella. I was not going to let her have the satisfaction of seeing me fail. I hated the thought of her learning to transform faster than me. But so far, despite all our hard work, none of the trainees had transformed yet. The only thing I'm going to transform into is a sleeping person, said Salon as we sat on our mats waiting for Master Sun back. Let me guess, said Hetty with a sigh. We'll be breathing again today. Rella stood up. I know how to breathe. I think I've been doing a pretty good job of it so far. What are you doing? Asked Cherry. There has to be a better way to uncover our guardian power, said Rella. I'm not going to waste my time sitting around. Master Sunback arrived, and Rella bowed low to her. Apologies, Master Sunback, but I'm not feeling well, said Rella in a meek-sounding voice. I think I should go lay down. Lie, said Master Sunback. We all held our breath. Did Master Sunback know that Rella wasn't telling the truth? But then the old woman smiled and said, the correct word is that you are going to lie down, Rella, not lay. Rella smiled nervously, then bowed again and left. Master Sunback took a seat in front of the class. We returned to the breath, she said. Let the rest of the world fall away until there is nothing left but your breathing. I began breathing in and out slowly with the others, just as we had every day. And just as I did every day, my mind started to whir thoughts. Why does Rella hate me so much? If I transform into a giant land snail, will she laugh at me? What if I fail and disappoint Grandma and Grandpa? What if I never find out my mother's dream for me? These types of worries had started to spin in my brain all the time, even when I lay down to sleep. I had also started having dreams about the first test. In every dream, I was the only one who didn't know what to do. That night I woke from that same dream, my hair soaked with sweat. I rolled over and blinked. It was still dark out, so it took me a moment to realize something felt off. That's when I noticed that Rella wasn't in her bed. Chapter 15. I tried to stay awake to see if Rella came back to bed, but I accidentally fell asleep. The next morning I watched her at breakfast, but she seemed normal. I wondered how she could appear so relaxed when she was skipping class. Wasn't she nervous about the first test too? But I couldn't worry about her. I needed to worry about myself. The only time I ever felt relaxed was during chores. Our chore schedule was supposed to rotate, but Sam and I stayed assigned to the garden. I didn't know why. It seemed like the teachers had made a mistake, but I didn't complain. I liked hanging out in the garden. If I had been paired up with a different person, we probably would have become good friends by now. But Sam hardly ever said a word to me. I was too tired to be preoccupied worrying about the first test to care. In the evenings, we had small meals, usually soup or omelets on rice. Every night, Cherry and I made plans to stay up late talking, and every night we passed out as soon as we hit our mats. Sunrise always came way too soon. I can't do it, said Cherry, lying like a starfish on her mat. It was early in the morning, 2 weeks before the first test. Just leave me here. I'll face the wrath of Master Dew, but I can't get up before the sun one more time. Oh, that's too bad, I said. I heard that today in hand class we're finally practicing kicks. Cherry hopped up out of bed and threw on her clothes so fast she put them on backward. But first, we had heart class. Brother Chalad greeted us by saying, "Today we will be listening to sea cucumbers." We all groaned, and he laughed at us until tears came out of his eyes. "You should have seen your faces." Ah, that joke never gets old. Seriously, though, today we start a third week of your training, which means things start to ratchet up. We all looked at one another, wondering what he meant. Brother Chalad led us to a grassy pasture behind the kitchen garden. "Today we will finally begin to work on the healing arts," he said, "and we will be starting with..." He swung open the little wooden gate that led to the pasture. Doe lambs. A dozen fluffy white puffballs bounced and rolled through the gate and bounded toward us. Their noses and ears were fleckled with brown, like someone had sprinkled cinnamon on them. "Oh my gosh, doe lambs are the cutest," cried Hetty, as one of the sweet lambs licked her face. "They are cute," said Brother Chalad, "but they are not good listeners, and they want to go everywhere and nibble everything. They are in this special pen because they got into a patch of wild parsnips, which are highly poisonous. We have to feed them an antidote every day or they could get very sick. Today your assignment is to convince them to take their medicine." He laughed again and slapped his leg. "Oh boy, this is going to be entertaining." Brother Chalad handed us each a wooden bowl filled with a stinky green paste. Right away I understood why he had laughed at us. My lamb wanted to eat anything, everything in sight, except her medicine. I needed a name for her. I chose Mip, because that was the sound she made when she spotted a potential snack. "No, Mip, not the garden. Come take your medicine." I chased her out of the cilantro beds, only to find her crashing through the beans. I saw Salon and asked if he was having better luck. He held up his tunic, which had a giant bite mark in it. "Does this answer your question?" Okay, I needed to think. Mip wasn't listening to me, but she couldn't really help it. She was just a baby after all. What would go through a baby's mind? She had been cooped up in her pen all morning, and now she wanted to play. "Okay, Mip, let's play." She looked up at me and hopped. I hopped. She ran. I ran beside her, all the way to the fresh stream that came down out of the mountains. She bent and drank. I dunked my face in the water. Mip bleated sweetly. I thought that was her way of laughing at me. "You know what, Mip? You remind me of Tansy back home," I sighed. "I bet Grandpa is working in the rice field and Grandma is making new baskets. I'm sure Tansy is eating them faster than she can weave them." All of a sudden I thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad if I failed the first test. At least then I'd get to go back home to the people I loved. But then Mip worked her soft nose into my hand. I stroked her ears. They were even more velvety than Tansy's. If I became a guardian, my job would be to protect creatures like Mip. I liked the idea of doing something so important. I scooped my fingers into the bowl, covering them with green paste. "Now, if you want to play tomorrow, you have to take your medicine today, okay?" I let Mip lick the medicine off my fingers. "Good girl," I said. "Now, was that so bad?" Brother Chalad clapped as I led Mip back to the pen. "Astonishing, Plum. I'm very impressed." "Really?" He nodded. "Just see how the others are doing." My classmates were covered in green goo. They had scooped their lambs up in their arms and were dragging them back to the corral, kicking and bleeding. Cherry had medicine caked in her hair. "Plum, you put your lamb in a headlock, didn't you?" I laughed. I felt pretty proud of myself. But then I heard Rella say in a loud voice, "I'm not surprised Plum did so well. She probably lived in a sheep pen. At least that's what she smells like." Some of the Nakan Island kids snickered. All my pride evaporated and my face burned hot. I was glad Brother Chalad was there because otherwise I would have tripped Rella and pushed her down into the mud. Chapter 16. In hand class, Master Dew had a surprise for us too. After weeks of escape drills, conditioning, and doing everything but fighting, we were finally paired up to start sparring. Cherry couldn't contain herself. She was bouncing so much I thought she was going to levitate. "I'm so ready to fight." Master Dew smiled. "All right, Cherry, you get your wish. Come and attack me." Cherry looked shocked, like Master Dew had just given her a giant birthday cake. Then she got a fierce glimmer in her eye and rushed headlong at Master Dew. Cherry had been wrestling and fighting way longer than any of us. If anyone was a match for Master Dew, it was her. She threw herself into attacking her teacher, but Master Dew blocked every one of Cherry's moves with speed and ease. And then just when it seemed like Cherry was finally going to get in a kick, Master Dew grabbed her ankle and used it to flip Cherry onto the ground. Cherry looked up, her face filthy with dust, and grinned, bigger than I'd ever seen. "That was awesome! You've got to teach me how to do that." Master Dew laughed as she helped Cherry to her feet. There is a joy in your energy that we could all learn from. All right, let's partner up. Master Do led us through some simple sparring drills, blocking kicks and punches from our partners. I was worried Cherry would overpower me, but I was surprised to find that I could actually block her attacks. Now I understood why Master Do had made us practice escape so much. During every match, we ended up on the ground at some point. When that happened, if we couldn't escape from underneath our partner, it was all over. I also understood why we had spent weeks building up our endurances. Sparring with another person was exhausting. We continued the drills, changing partners each time until we had been matched up with everyone in the class. I was sweaty and spent by the time I got matched up with Rella. She was sweating too, but she grinned like she was ready to eat me up. Come on, pig farmer, she said with a sneer. Pretend I'm a big bucket of slop you can't wait to roll in. I seethed with anger and rushed full force at her. At the last moment, she stepped aside and shoved me to the ground. I pushed myself up before I could attack. Rella hooked her toes behind my ankle and swung me to the ground again, onto my back. It knocked the wind out of me, and I rolled onto my side, heaving. Then I bolted up and got into fighting stance. We're supposed to be taking it easy, but Rella rushed at me and started throwing full punches. Block, block, block. Ha! Take that, Rella. I could feel my anger toward her surging through my body. I swung my leg around and brought my heel down hard to whack her in the shoulder. Before I could make contact, a hand caught my foot. I looked up. It was Master Do. She tipped my leg up until I fell backwards onto the ground again. I groaned as I slowly sat up. Girl, she said in a scolding tone, that wasn't the assignment. Apparently you have too much energy that you need to jog up to Sunrise Temple to get it all out. I was out of breath already, but I bowed to Master Do and headed for the temple stairs. Halfway up the steps, I turned to see how close Rella was, but she wasn't there. She must have run off and not taken her punishment. I should have known she'd cheat in every way. Chapter 17. I'd never been so glad that Rella had started skipping breath class. Master Sunback's lesson might have been boring, but at least I didn't have to deal with a cruel classmate. You are only the breath in and out. Only the breath, repeated Master Sunback. My mind was still fixated on Rella, and when I breathed out, a frustrated sigh fluttered from my lips. I quickly shut my mouth before Master Sunback could hear. Too late. My dear trainee, she said, we will stop our lesson for a moment. I can feel that you are like guitars with strings stretched too tight. Let me answer your questions and see if we can ease the tension. She turned to me and smiled. Plum, let's start with you. You have a question for me? I cleared my throat. Well, Master Sunback, I wonder if maybe some of us were never meant to be very good at breath. Like maybe we're heart guardians. Or hand, blurted Cherry. Some of the other kids murmured and nodded in agreement, and I was very glad I wasn't the only one wondering what the point of this class was. Master Sunback nodded. I see. You think that if you are not a breath guardian, you don't need to learn the power of the breath? But do any of you question the need to learn defense in your hand class? Well, that's different, said Miko. Everyone has to know how to defend themselves, and everyone should learn some heart skills, said Salon, in case you have to help a creature who's hurt. Ah, but why don't you think you need to breathe? Asked Master Sunback with a tilt of her chin. The great beast gave us 3 gifts for a reason. Without mastering breath, you will not be able to access your guardian powers. Miko threw his hands up. Master Sunback, it sure would help if we knew what our powers were going to be. I mean, what are we working so hard for? Master Sunback tilted her head one way, then the other. Then she transformed. We all gasped and scooted back. Master Sunback was a bearded lizard with sunset red scales. When she stood on her back legs, she was as tall as Miko. She peered at him with her dark eyes and beckoned him to stand beside her. Miko gulped and went to the front of the class. Master Sunback put on one scaly claw on Miko's shoulder. My own powers are in recognizing the strengths of others, she winked. A century of being a teacher helps, too. A century? How old was Master Sunback, anyways? Miko, please shut your eyes. Miko smashed his eyelids closed. Let's breathe together, just like we do in class, said Master Sunback. For a few minutes, we watched as Miko stood with his eyes shut, breathing in and out. Then Master Sunback tapped him. They both opened their eyes. Miko, your abilities are in stamina and endurance. If you pass the first test, I can almost guarantee that you will be a hand guardian. Miko's whole face glowed. Thank you, Master Sunback. I'll work so hard. I will pass. Master Sunback smiled. Now who would like to go next? A dozen hands shot up in the air. Master Sunback selected Salon, and just like she had done with Miko, placed her claw on his shoulder. After a few minutes of breathing, she said, Salon, you pay attention to all the little details. That's important in detecting the disease and illness. Master Sunback winked at him. Good qualities for a heart guardian to have. Salon grinned, and we clapped for him. Master Sunback wagged a scaly claw at all of us. Now for those predictions to become realities, you must all attend your studies. These powers will only be realized if you are able to transform into guardians. Next, Master Sunback called on Hetty. Her strength was in sensing danger, a classic breath guardian skill. Twist and Sam were also on track to become breath guardians. Twist was skilled at sensing changes in the weather, and Sam had just super senses in general. No surprise, Cherry's strength and tenacity also made her a likely hand guardian. So was Basil, who was quick and good at escaping. Basil's twin Drum was in the Heart Guardian group, along with Gentle Emmy. I watched all of them and clapped along as Master Sunback told them their abilities. I shook my head as I thought of Rella missing this most incredible day of class. Finally, the moment I had been waiting arrived. Plum, it's your turn, my dear. I wiped my sweaty fingers on my tunic as I stood up in front of Master Sunback. I took a deep breath and shut my eyes, wondering what my strengths could be. I'm probably a heart guardian. Ooh, what if I'm a hand? Chill out, Plum, and just be happy with whatever you get. Plum, focus only on breathing, whispered Master Sunback. You must let everything else in your mind go. Try again. I nodded and took another deep breath. I felt Master Sunback's scaly grip on my shoulder loosen. When I opened my eyes, her pleased smile had changed into a look of curiosity. Her blue tongue flickered in and out as she peered at my face. I swallowed hard. Why was she looking at me like that? From the direction of the kitchen, we heard the lunch bells ring. Ah, Master Sunback. Lunchtime already. Let's stop there for today, shall we? She transformed back into human form and clapped her hands. You must have missed the most important part of the day. The other trainees chatted excitedly as they gathered their shoes and bags. I followed after them, casting one last look at Master Sunback. The old woman stared at the ground, tapping her chin. Whatever she had seen in me had left her confused. She wasn't the only one. Chapter 18. I had to wait 2 days to speak with Master Sunback again. She was called away on some guardian business, and Master Dew took over breath class in her absence. It wasn't until Saturday, our rare day off from classes and chores, that I got my opportunity. I found her on the Lotus Court, kneeling beside one of the lotus ponds, dressed in her muddy work clothes. Her face was tilted up like she was drinking in the sunlight. I dropped into a bow. Master Sunback, can I talk to you? She held a pair of tweezers out to me. Perfect timing, Plum, she said with a smile. I need to do an extremely boring job, and now you can help me. Master Sunback pulled the tweezers, pushed the tweezers into my hands as I knelt on the stones beside her. She showed me how to use them to pluck out the duckweed that grew in thick green mats among the flowers. As I worked, she tenderly cupped a pale lotus blossom in her hand. I baby these plants, but the truth is they are very tough. Did you know that lotus seeds can be dried out for 1,000 years and still sprout when they are planted in the mud? Really? Oh, yes. Such a magnificent plant. She smiled at me as I plucked the weeds. You are very good with plants, Plum. Thank you, ma'am. And you are good with animals, she added. Thank you, ma'am. The other teachers tell me that you work hard and that you're an excellent student. I started to blush. Well, thank you. I tried to. So how come you don't listen in my class? I sat up on my heels. That's not true. I pay attention to every word you say. She shook her head and pointed a finger at me. No. You hear my words, but you don't follow them. Your body is breathing, but you let your mind run around like a racehorse. I can see it. You can? I frowned. Master Sunback, is this why you looked at me so funny in our class? Because I didn't listen? No, that's not the reason. I turned the tweezers over and over in my hands. Is it because I'm not actually guardian material? Is it because you made a mistake bringing me here? She sat back and put her hand on my knee. Plum, I do not make mistakes regarding my trainees. You were selected to come to Lotus Island because you are very special. That's why my grandparents tell me too, but maybe I'm just different. I looked in the direction of the beach where the other trainees had gone to swim. I'm not like all the other kids here. They've known all their lives that they wanted to be guardians. Plum, do you want to be a guardian? I felt like the answer to that question was darting around my brain like a twilight fly. I want to figure out who I'm supposed to be, I said, and I definitely don't want to fail the first test. I don't want to go home a failure. She tilted her face to the side. Who told you that going home would be a failure? It's not something I've ever said. No, but there are some people who come to Lotus Island who are not meant to be guardians. When they leave here, they discover different paths. That's a good thing. Yes, but... And don't dwell too much on what happened in our class, Master Sunback interrupted. Just because I couldn't easily place you doesn't mean you won't become a guardian. She went back to tending the lotus. Plum, if you are meant to be a guardian, then your guardian form is already inside you, waiting. There is no shortcut to becoming what you already are. Don't try to be powerful, be strong, be magical. You cannot be a guardian, you cannot be anything if you cannot just be. I shut my eyes and shook my head. I'm not sure I understand. She patted my knee. Her hand was warm from the sun. Follow what I have taught you in breath class. Don't dismiss it as a simple or foolish. It is not easy, I know, but I believe that you can do it. I opened my eyes. It meant a lot that Master Sunback believed in me. I only wished I could believe, too. Chapter 19. That night I lay in bed thinking about the things Master Sunback had told me. I could hear Cherry snoring softly on her mat. I opened my eyes. The moon was more than half full, a reminder of how close we were to our first test. Suddenly I saw Rella sit up in bed. I shut my eyes tight, then peeled one eyelid open so I could see what she was doing. She was silent as a shadow as she swung her legs off her mat, slipped on her shoes, and tiptoed out the door. I lay in bed for a few more moments before going to the window. Sure enough, there was Rella, tiptoeing down the moonlit path below and into the forest. What could she be up to? I slipped a robe over my shoulders and put my shoes on. I climbed down the cobra grapevine and followed after her. My heart pounded. What would I say if she caught me? I hadn't gone far when I heard something in the bushes beside me. Who's there? I hissed. A small white thing burst out of the vegetation. It looked at me and bleated. I exhaled with relief. Oh, Mip, you scared me. But what in the world are you doing out of your pen? I knelt down and held out my arms. Mip began trotting towards me and then froze. She looked up in the dark trees behind me and sniffed the air. It's all right, girl. Come on, I'll get you back to where you belong. Mip's little eggs began to tremble. I reached out to scoop her up in my arms, but she let out a frightened bleat and took off running in the other direction. Mip, come back! I hesitated, torn between my desire to help the little lamb and my burning curiosity about what was Rella doing. But I couldn't let Mip run wild. There were too many places on the island where she could get hurt. I took off after Mip all the way to the Lotus Court and around the back of the kitchen building. I followed the sound of her frightened bleats as my feet patted over the soft earth near the garden. Mip, are you there? I'm here to help. I heard a rustling in the orchard by the garden. I looked up to see a large dark shape emerge from the trees. It was some sort of enormous animal. As it approached, I realized it was a wolf hound, the biggest dog I had ever seen, with a lean snout like a wolf's and a coat of a sable-brown fur. Was this a guardian? But who could it be? And why was it speaking? The beast nodded in the direction Mip had run, then bowed to me, dropping to its knees. I understood that the wolfhound wanted to give me a ride, even though I was afraid there was no time to waste if I was going to save Mip. I climbed on, and the great dog took off, loping across the meadow. But where should we go? Mip could be anywhere. The sound of fluttering wings filled the air. I imagined I could hear the bats and moths whispering to one another. Have you seen her? Have you seen the little lamb? Have you? Have you? Suddenly 1,000 golden pinpricks of light sparkled in the black night. Fireflies. They were flashing in a pattern, pointing towards the eastern side of the island. That way, I told the wolfhound. Follow the lights. I held tight to the scruff of the fur on the dog's neck as it bounded over the grass. As we neared the eastern cliffs, I saw Mip ahead of us. Mip, don't get close to the edge. The wolfhound slowed, then stopped so I could climb down. Mip must have been so scared because she skittered even closer to the cliff. Fortunately, a spindly laurel bush stood between her and the cliff's edge. I took a deep breath and slowly approached her. It's all right, Mip, I said, inching closer to her. No one is going to hurt you, I whispered to the laurel bush. Don't let her fall, Sister Laurel. The branches of the laurel bush seemed to fold protectively around Mip, holding her still and calming her down. I reached for her and tucked her securely under one arm. But just as I was sure we were both safe, I felt the rocks beneath us crumble and give way. We started to fall. I clutched Mip tight and shut my eyes. As my body fell through the air, I felt a hand encircle my wrist and grab tight. "I've got you," shouted a voice from above. I opened my eyes. Far beneath me, the moonlight reflected on the waves. I looked up to see who had saved Mip and me from plunging into the ocean below. "What the?" I whispered. "Sam?" Chapter 20. With Mip safely back in her pen, Sam and I sat on the mound of soft grass beside the kitchen garden, exchanging our stories. "So I was in the bamble orchard practicing transforming, and well, this is going to sound weird," said Sam bashfully, "but I could smell you. Not that you smell bad. I could hear you, too. I think it's part of my guardian powers. When I'm a wolf hun, my senses are dialed all the way up." I leaned back and looked at him, still amazed by what he had done. "Now, how long have you known how to transform?" "A couple of days now. I didn't want anyone else to know. So I've been practicing late at night when everyone's asleep." "But why not tell anyone?" I asked. Sam pushed his glasses up onto his nose. "I didn't want the other kids to know I'd learned so early. They already hate me. I'm sure they think my mother had arranged some special favors for me or something." I frowned. He was right. And as much as I hated to admit it, I would have thought the same thing. "I've been meditating since I was really little," Sam continued, "and I practice every chance I can, even when we have free time. One day it just all clicked. I looked down and I had paws." I thought of how I never saw Sam hanging out with the other kids. I assumed it was just because he considered himself too good to play with us, but he had been practicing. "You've wanted to be a guardian for a long time, huh?" I asked him. He nodded. "It's been my dream forever. It felt so good to work together to save Mip tonight. Imagine doing that all the time. What could be better?" I smiled. It did feel really good to help her. "My mom wasn't sure I should come here," said Sam. "I think she was afraid I would fail. But now I can't wait to tell her what I can do." Sam looked proud of himself, not in a smug way like Rella, but like someone who'd been working really hard at something that had finally paid off. "You're looking at me funny," he said. "Did I say something wrong? Sorry." He sighed and looked down at the grass. "I haven't hung out with other kids as much." I shook my head. "Actually, I'm the one who owes you an apology. This whole time I had you all wrong. I thought you were spoiled." "It's okay," said Sam. I probably am spoiled and don't even know it. I don't want to be, but I haven't had the most normal life. It's part of why I wanted to come to Lotus Island. I wanted to know what it was like to be around normal kids." He looked at me and grinned. "I did ask the teachers for one favor, though." "You did?" "I asked them to keep us on guard and duty and not make us rotate." I gasped. "That was you?" He chuckled. "I saw how much you liked it, and I told them, if you want to grow twice as many vegetables, let Plum stay on garden duty. She sings to the eggplant." "I do not." Sam raised his eyebrows. "Okay, fine. I sing for them," I said. They like smooth melodies, okay?" That made him laugh. You thought I was some dirty farm girl," I said. "What? No, I think what you can do is amazing. You're so good in the garden, and you're the only one who can get the dough lambs to do anything." I shrugged. "I've always been good with animals." "It's not just that, Plum. I heard you talk to that laurel bush tonight, and it actually listened to you." I laughed. "You were imagining that." "I saw the bush wrap its branches around Mip," said Sam, "after you told it to. The strange thing was that I had seen it too. I thought about the old yam-yam tree that had shown me the path into the forest and the vines that had seemed to move out of my way. Was Sam right? Did those plants actually understand what I was saying?" I rubbed my shell pendant and shook my head. What we saw was probably just a trick of the light. If I could get plants and animals to listen to me, I'd give a lot more orders. Sam made a face like he wasn't entirely convinced. He pointed to my necklace. "And how about that shell? Did you talk a snail into giving it to you?" I smiled and held it out toward him. "My mom left it for me before she died. My grandma said she put her dreams for me into it." "Oh, you mean a dream amulet," said Sam. I shook my head confused. "I don't know what you're talking about." Sam reached inside his shirt collar and pulled out a gold charm with a ruby jewel set into it. "A dream amulet. It's an old tradition on Lotus Island. Parents whisper their dreams for their children into a charm or stone and give it to them for luck. Here, listen." Sam cupped his hands around the gold charm and blew a warm breath onto it. When he opened his hands, a soft light, like a tiny ball of starlight, glowed from the ruby gem. He held the charm up to my ear. I heard the faintest echoing whisper of a woman's voice. "Wealth and power will flow to you like water from a rain." "Sam, that's amazing. Whose voice is that?" Sam let the pendant dangle again on its chain. "My mother's. Her dream was for me to be rich and powerful. We already are, so I guess it was kind of a waste." I laughed. Well, your necklace is gold. Mine is just a plain shell. I'm pretty sure it's not a dream amulet or anything fancy like that. He shrugged. Ask a hermit crab which necklace is more valuable. I'd pick your shell for sure. It'd pick your shell for sure. I squeezed my necklace tight. The sun was starting to come up. We needed to head back to our rooms before the teachers were up. I walked him back to his private dorm. See you during chores, Sam called as I continued on to my own dorm. Maybe you can teach me your eggplant song. Just wait till you hear what I sing for the pumpkins. I smiled as I walked up the steps to my room. There was still so much I felt unsure about, but one thing was certain. I felt less alone than I did before. Chapter 21. I sat on the bench outside our dorm yawning. It was a miracle I hadn't fallen asleep on my feet during class that day. After being up half the night with Sam and Bip. Excuse me. I was so tired, I wanted to take a nap. The Cherry had organized a wrestling match after chores, and right now, half of the trainees were shouting and rolling around in our room. Rella was with them. I had kept an eye on her all day, but she had avoided meeting my gaze. Something was up, but I knew if I asked her about it, she would just make up some joke and wave me off. I'd have to catch her in the act if I wanted the truth. I swung my legs beneath the bench and tapped my finger against the shell of my necklace. I smiled. It was funny to think that Sam had suggested it was a dream amulet, as if my humble little shell were anything like his gold necklace from fancy Lotus Island. Hold on. I suddenly remembered that my mother had been born on Lotus Island. Could it be that she had made the same sort of necklace for me? My heart fluttered at the thought that I might be able to hear my mother's voice. I cupped my hands around the shell and blew a hot breath onto it. At first, nothing happened, and I felt silly for even trying. But then I saw it, a faint white glow inside the shell. I brought it closer to my face and listened. A soft murmur reached my ears. The voice was so quiet, but it shot straight through me. Plum, my dream for my plum. Mother, I whispered, holding back tears. Suddenly the white shot straight out of the shell, and it hovered like a twilight fly right in front of my face. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat. I reached my hand timidly out to it. Mother, I whispered, is that your voice? The white light flitted away from my hand. I got to my feet, following it down the path towards the old forest. Mother, wait! The light disappeared into the trees. I followed it as it veered through the undergrowth. I stumbled over tree roots, not thinking where I was going, not looking back. I didn't want to lose sight of the little light, but I had the feeling it didn't want to lose me either. It wasn't until I was out of breath and sweating that I realized where we were going. The light stopped in the shadow of the ruined temple we had found on our first day on Lotus Island. It waited for me to catch my breath and then floated inside the temple. I tiptoed after it as I traced the murals painted on the walls. I ran my fingers along the panels. I didn't know how to explain it, but it felt like the presence of my mother, as if she had stood beside me. Why did you bring me here? I whispered, not wanting to break the spell. The light bobbed along the mural, illuminating the story of the great beast and the creation of the Santi Pap Islands. It blazed brighter as it traced the path to the creation of the guardians, the heart, the hand, the breath. When the light reached the spot where the wall had crumbled, it hovered there like it wanted to go farther to show me more. Tears choked my throat. Mother, what is it? The light flared and darted away from my outstretched fingers towards the crumbling stones that covered up the rest of the mural. I was worried it would disappear into the cracks in the rocks, and I would lose my mother's voice forever. I shot my hand out and closed my fingers around the light. The warmth of it spread all through my body. I took a deep breath. I had never felt so safe, so confident, so sure. Slowly I opened my fingers. The white light flickered faintly as it drifted up to my shell pennant and back inside. I wiped my tears away and sank to my knees. I looked up at the mural, the gold paint gleaming faintly in the shadows. I couldn't believe it. I had been visited by my mother's spirit, and I had heard her voice. My mother wanted me to become a guardian. I just knew it. I pressed my palms together at my chest and bowed my head. Mother, I whispered, I promise you that I will make your wish come true. I opened my eyes. I would become a guardian, no matter what it took. Chapter 22. From that moment on, I threw myself into my studies. We had only 1 week left until our final test. When we were told we could take the next few days off for our chores, I took full advantage. While the other trainees caught up on sleep or meditated, I used the time to run through our hand drills over and over. When I was too tired to drill, I sat and imagined the way it would feel to fulfill my mother's dream. If my mind started to wander, I forced it to come back and to concentrate on this one all-important goal. After a couple of days, something didn't feel right. My fingers longed to dig into the dirt of the garden. I missed the smell of wet soil and green growing life, but I couldn't waste one moment on that stuff. I needed to focus. Trainees, with the first test just around the corner, it's time we talk about transformation, said Master Dew in hand class. We all murmured excitedly. This is what we had been waiting for. Many trainees find it helpful to have specific movement that triggers their transformation. You can train your body to take on its guardian form every time you perform that move. Let me show you mine. Master Dew crouched low on one leg and held the other straight, like she was getting ready to pounce on something. She shut her eyes, then sprang forward with her hands out. But now her hands were paws, and she was covered in black jacat fur. Master Dew winked at us, then transformed back into her human self. I want you to spend today's class listening to your bodies. Find your own moves. Solian raised his hand. How do we know what move we should use? Miko stood with his arms at his sides, waggling his fingers. I think this might be mine. Focus on your breath and let it move through your body, said Master Dew. The motion that's the one for you will just feel right. When you find it, you'll know. We spread out and got started. I felt a little silly to be waving my arms and legs around with my friends watching. When none of us could stop giggling, Master Dew had us close our eyes. I tried squatting down like Master Dew. I swung my arms to one side, then the other. I stepped forward. I jumped. Concentrate, Plum. I peeled one eye open. The other kids were totally absorbed in the assignment. Everyone had their eyes closed, and they moved slowly as if their bodies were covered in honey. I watched Cherry take up a wide stance and pull one arm back like she was drawing the string of a bow. She did the motion again and again, then broke into a huge smile. This is totally my move. It feels so right. Hetty balanced on one foot, then swept the other foot into a wide arc in front of her. When I do this, I can feel the shivery coolness all over. Excellent, Hetty. That's a sign that you're on the right track. Master Dew turned to me. How about you, Plum? Did you find a motion that feels right? I nodded and pretended to practice. Master Dew continued on to congratulate the other trainees around me, who were connecting with their moves. She had said that when we found the right one, we would know. But the only thing that I knew was that I had failed. Again. Doed beef effum, mumbled Cherry. What? Cherry swallowed the bite of fruit in her mouth and took a big drink of coconut water. We were sitting in the shade of a twisty rose apple tree after lunch. I said, don't beat yourself up. Not everyone figured it out. I was watching, I said. Everyone did. Everyone but me. Well, there's your problem. You weren't supposed to have your eyes open. Cherry set her hand on my shoulder. It's like Master Sunbeck says. Our guardian powers have always been with us. They're just beneath the surface. You can't force them out. I squeezed her hand. Cherry was such a sweet friend, but she didn't understand. She was a natural guardian. If I was going to pass the first test, I couldn't just sit back and hope for it to happen. Master Duda came over to where we were resting. To our surprise, she was followed by a bright yellow hoverbot. Sam, you have a visitor. Your mother is waiting for you down at the dock. Sam blushed as he followed the hoverbot to the dock. Master Dew turned to the rest of us. Little brothers and sisters, Brother Chilad has offered to take you on a hike to West Shore Falls this afternoon. Everyone whooped and got up to change clothes. Hetty rolled her eyes in the direction of the dock. Must be nice to be Sam. No one else is allowed to have visitors. Yep, spoiled, said Cherry. You coming, Plum? I frowned, feeling bad for Sam. It wasn't his fault his mom had broken the rules. I was glad for him. He missed his mother so much. Suddenly, I had the overwhelming urge to hear my own mother's voice again. You go on, I'll catch up, I said to Cherry. I waited for her and Hetty to walk away, and then I turned in the other direction. If I could just connect with my mother's spirit one more time, I knew it would give me the boost I needed to do well on the first test. I raced towards the forest. Chapter 23. My feet flew along the path to the ruins. I had felt so sure that I could become a guardian when I was here last. I just needed to tap into that feeling again. I stopped when I reached the little pond with the lotus buds. Their white petals had started to unfold. I breathed in their soft scent and knelt down in a beam of sunlight. I know you wanted me to be a guardian, but I need help, I whispered to the pendant. I'm trying so hard, but just don't know how to do this. I breathed into the shell like I had before, but this time there was no soft glow or sound of my mother's voice. Suddenly I heard a noise in the bushes behind me. Who's there? I whispered. I swear I caught a flash of fur, but then it was gone. My heart thudded as I tiptoed away from the pond and into the trees. I hid behind a large broken stone statue and listened. Voices and footsteps coming closer. With horror, I realized that one of the voices belonged to Master Sunback. I searched for an escape, but I couldn't go anywhere without them seeing me. I crouched lower and tried to be completely silent. My son is very quiet, I know, said a second voice. If you could be easy with him, I would be very grateful. I recognized that voice. It was the same one I had heard coming from Sam's pennant. Lady Uban. My lady, said Master Sunback, all our trainees must do the work for themselves. That said, Sam is a wonderful student, and he is very talented. I don't think you need to worry about him. I risked peeking around the edge of the statue. They made a strange pair, tall, elegant Lady Uban, and a small Master Sunback in her simple robes. You make me a very proud mother, said Lady Uban, with a warm smile, and now I will tell you the true reason for my visit. Last week, a team of 3 guardians on Bidibop Island stopped a fleet of boats from Nakan Island and made them turn back. Yes, they told me, said Master Sunback. The coral reef near Bidibop Island is very fragile, and your fishermen were dropping anchor, destroying the coral that had been growing for thousands of years. They were also overfishing, taking far too much in their nets. Those fishermen feed the people of Nakan Island, said Lady Uban. I will speak with them about their anchors, of course, but this is not the first time your guardians have gotten in our way. Please order them to allow us to fish there. Master Sunback's voice prickled with irritation. They are not my guardians, and I do not give them orders, my lady. They have sworn an oath to protect life. I trust them to use their gifts to do so. I have a large population of people to protect, said Lady Uban. Their lives come first, surely. I've had this discussion with your family before, said Master Sunback with a sigh. If you care for your people, you must care for the world they live in. Without the plants and animals of our island, we humans will not last very long. Now it was Lady Uban's turn to sound annoyed. Of course I care for the world we live in. In the years my family has ruled Nakan Island, we have improved the lives of everyone there. We have banished disease. Everyone has a chance to own a home, to prosper and build a life for themselves, which is much more than I can say for when the island was just a bunch of yam-yam farmers. And what will you do when everyone on Nakan wants a fancy house? Said Master Sunback. Well, where will you put them? And what will they build them with if you cut down all the trees? What will your people eat if you catch all the fish and run out of farmland? Lady Uban's shoes clicked on the stones as she paced around the lotus pond closer to me. I hardly dared to breathe. There is a solution, Master Sunback, she said. Master Sunback spoke wearily. I have already given you my answer. Lotus Island is not for sale. Even you have to admit that the power of the guardians is not what it once was, said Lady Uban. Does the Academy really need to take up the largest islands of Santipap? Is it true that with each passing year the power of the guardians seemed to fade a little more, said Master Sunback sadly. But we are still needed. The guardians will always be an important part of our history, said Lady Uban kindly. But we are heading into a new future, one of progress and prosperity. It may be time to step aside and let that new future unfold. I have told you that I will pay handsomely for this island. Master Sunback's answer was so forceful it made me jump. I would not sell you Lotus Island if you offered me every cone in Nakan Island. The guardians have sworn an oath to protect all the life throughout our islands. What future will there be if we abandon our duty? Lady Uban was silent for a long time. Then she spoke calmly. Master Sunback, I only want what is best for the people of Nakan, for all Santipap. I will leave the matter alone for now, but this is something we cannot ignore for much longer. The day is waning. I must get back to my duties in the city. I will find my son and bid him goodbye. Their voices faded as they left, but I stayed still for a long time, thinking about everything I had heard. What had they meant about the power of the guardians growing weaker? It was all so confusing. I realized I had stayed too long, and the others would be wondering where I had gone. As I stood up, I was knocked to the ground, onto my back. I looked up and drew in a sharp breath. I was staring into the fanged mouth of a giant leopard. Chapter 24. The leopard leaned heavily on my chest with its paws. I was trembling so hard that my teeth chattered. But then Master Dew's training kicked in. Without even thinking, I popped my hips up to knock the leopard off balance. I used my advantage to curl my knees and push out from underneath the beast. The next second, I was on my feet and running. I had gone only a few paces when I heard laughter behind me. The laughter was taunting and cruel, and familiar. Slowly I turned around. Rella, I whispered. The leopard shifted like it was shrugging off its thick, silvery coat. In its place stood Rella, cackling. Your face was priceless, she said. I've never seen someone so scared. I was too astonished by what I had seen to be angry at her. You were the leopard? But how? While you've been huffing and puffing in breath class, I've been doing the real work of learning to transform. What do you mean? She walked towards the ruined temple and waved at me to follow her. This is where I come during class, she said, pointing to the bottom of the mural. This is how I learned to transform. I realized for the first time that the gold patterns along the bottom of the mural were actually words written in looping, curling script. They're chants, whispered Rella. Ancient magic from before the Santipep Islands even existed. What do they say? I don't know exactly, said Rella. They must be written in the language of the old home, but it doesn't matter. If you say them in the proper order, you can tap into that old magic, she smirked. No breathing necessary. But why haven't our teachers said anything about this? I asked. If this is an easier way to transform, why not share it? Because they don't want us to get so far so fast. They treat us like babies, making us do drills and chores. By using the ancient magic, you can access all the power right away. Watch. She shut her eyes and placed her fingertips together. Then she began speaking in a low voice, repeating the same string of words over and over. With a ripple of silver, she became the leopard again. She was massive, as tall as me, even down on all four paws. She stalked me through the ruins like a trail of smoke. The shadows seemed to follow her and collect in her pools around her paws. The air felt colder than it had a moment before. I'm just begging to understand what being a guardian really means, growled Rella. This power! It's more than any of us realized. She shook her feline head, and before my eyes she vanished, melting into shadow. Rella, I said, looking around for her. Rella! She changed back into her human form, and the shadows scattered. She pointed to the mural. You could learn all of this too, Plum. It took me a while to get the rhythm of the words, but once you have it, it's quite easy. A strange icy feeling crept up my back. Why are you sharing this with me, Rella? Even as I asked the question, I knew the answer. You want me to use the chance too, so you're not the only one who could get into trouble? I folded my arms. This isn't right, and you know it. You should stop. A strange look flashed in her eyes, a mixture of loneliness and hunger. Stop? And then what, Plum? Go home a nobody? I have to become a guardian. I'm not like Sam Uban. I don't have some shiny future laid out for me. If I want a good life, I have to fight for it any way I can. I stared back at her. I had thought she was a fancy city kid with no worries. I was starting to realize that maybe I didn't know her at all. Rella put her hand on my arm. We could do this together. I could teach you. What does it matter how we transform as long as we can do it? She tilted her head at me. Unless those classes are working for you. My face must have given away my answer. Plum, are you seriously telling me you'd risk failing out of the academy just because you won't learn some simple chants? I'm willing to share this with you as long as you don't tell anyone. I sighed. I won't tell your secret, but not because I want something from you, because it's not my place. She smiled. Good. So will you use the chants? I cast my eyes down. I don't know. I mean, no, I won't. Rella shrugged and started walking away. Well, if you change your mind, the words are right there. Your future is in your hands, she called to me over her shoulder. Think about it, Plum. I stood still for a while before heading out. I cast one last look at the mural. The late afternoon sunlight hit the wall. The gold-painted words of the ancient chant blazed like a fire. Chapter 25. Our last breath class began much like the first. Breathe in, breathe out, said Master Sunback. I know many of you are nervous about the first test, but remember that our guardian forms are always with us. We keep them buried with our many thoughts and worries, but when we focus on our breath and just being, we allow our truest self to shine through. As usual, breathing slowly made me feel calmer, which was a good thing after what had happened to Rella at the ruins. I hadn't told anyone else about the chance. Was that the right decision? If Master Sunback could have read my mind, she would have told me not to hold on to those worries. She would have told me to let them float away like clouds moving across the sky. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to focus on my problems. How else was I supposed to solve them? Excellent work today, trainees, said Master Sunback when class was finished. We are done, but you are welcome to sit here as long as you like. And remember, no matter what happens, no matter where you are in the world, you can always return to this place of peaceful stillness just by breathing. I heard her get up and leave. My classmates stayed sitting, but I was ready to go. I was just about to stand up when I heard Cherry gasp. I opened my eyes and looked at her. Plum, are you seeing what I'm seeing? She whispered. Cherry's hands rested palms up on her knees, only they weren't hands anymore. They were furry paws with long claws. Cherry flexed one paw and the claws extended. The fuzzy skin between her fingers was webbed like a duck's foot. Oh my gosh. The other kids began to open their eyes. Their mouths fell open as they saw Cherry. Then everyone shut their eyes again. Their breathing sounded like a hurricane. It took a moment for the calm to return. I shut my eyes too. I tried to remain focused on myself, but peeking at everyone else was too tempting. Salon suddenly had a vibrant blue feathers covering his arms and neck. Twist skin shimmered with rosy scales. One by one all around me, my classmates began to show flickers of transformation. Some of them only glimmers, a pop of fur here, a crest of feathers there. Others, like Cherry, were definitely in the middle of transforming. I half expected to look over and see her becoming a giant beast. Sam sat very still, unchanged. I guessed that he didn't want to reveal that he could fully transform into a wolfhound. I shut my eyes and took a big breath to steady myself. I would not be the last one. I touched the shell pendant around my neck and focused on the thought of transformation. I was determined to do it through a sheer force of will. But the next thing I knew, the lunch bells were ringing out. As the trainees opened their eyes and stood up, their guardian forms faded away. Everyone laughed and talked excitedly. As for me, I hadn't managed a flicker of transformation. Not even one tiny patch of fur. Chapter 26. The gold letters of the chants gleamed in the windows like they had been painted with embers. I took a deep breath and clutched the shell pendant tight in my fist. I had been worried that Rella would be at the ruins today, but to my relief, I was alone. The first test was tomorrow. After my failure in breath class, I knew this was my only hope of passing. Mother, I whisper, I'm going to do this for you. I waited to feel that wonderful warmth that had come from the shell before, but I must have been too nervous to feel anything. I let go of the shell and reached into my pocket for the piece of paper and pencil I had brought. I knelt at the base of the mural and started copying down the chants. They were written in our alphabet, but I didn't understand the words. Rella had said that their power would help me, even if I didn't know what I was saying. I hope she was right. I wrote down everything carefully, but then I ran into a problem. The mural covered the entire length of the temple wall, but a portion of the wall was hidden by crumbled stones. The chant continued under the rubble, out of sight. I wanted to pull some of the stones away from the wall, but I worried that messing with the rocks was too dangerous. I frowned down at my paper. If I was missing some of the chant, would its powers work for me? Well, it had worked for Rella. I wrote down as much as I could. I sat back on my heels and took a deep breath and began to read the words out loud. My tongue tripped over the strange sounds at first, but then I found a rhythm. The words came out in a breathy murmur, like someone talking in their sleep. When I finished, nothing happened. Had I done it right? I tried again, then again, more slowly. As I spoke, I began to feel a strange tingling in my fingertips. Suddenly, the entire temple flooded with light. The images in the murals burst into motion. They floated and swayed as if the paintings were alive. The tingling in my fingers surged into my arms and legs. I felt so strong, like I could run to the top of a mountain or leap over trees. Rella had been right. This was power, pure power. It scared me. I clamped my mouth shut and pressed my hands tight together. The light vanished like a candle being blown out. I sat still for a long time, breathing heavily. Then I realized I must have been in the middle of transforming, but I had forgotten to look at myself to figure out what my guardian form was. But I didn't want to say the chants again right now. I didn't know what was more frightening, the overwhelming feeling of power or the fact that I wanted to feel it again. I folded the piece of paper and put it in my pocket. Chapter 27. The evening of the first test had arrived. As I got in line with the rest of the trainees to head towards Lotus Court, I kept my eyes on my feet. I felt an arm slip into the crook of my elbow. Cherry smiled at me. "It's going to be great," she said. I smiled back, even though I wasn't so sure. We gathered in the Lotus Court just like we had on the first night we arrived. The sky was deep blue, and the full moon had just begun to rise over the edge of the sea. Master Sunback stood in front of us between Brother Chalad and Master Dew. They all wore the crisp white robes reserved for special ceremonies. Master Sunback raised her arms in greeting. "My dear trainees, you have all worked so hard and learned so much. We could not be prouder of you. This is the moment you've been working toward. I will call you one by one, and you will come forward and make your transformation, or not. Remember that no matter what happens, by the time the full moon sets, you will be who you are, just as you have always been." I heard a soft cough behind me. I turned. Rella raised one eyebrow at me. I turned back around, my stomach fluttering faster than twilefly wings. "Sam," Master Sunback called gently, "would you like to go first?" Sam looked nervously at all of us. Then he squared his shoulders, stood, and walked to stand in front of Master Sunback. He shut his eyes and did his move, placing his hands together in a deep bow. Instantly, he became the wolfhound who had helped me save Mip. All around me, the others murmured in awe. Master Sunback smiled at him. "Congratulations, novice Sam." Sam threw his head back and let out a howl of joy. We all laughed and clapped for him. And so it began. One by one, I watched as my friends were called, and they took their place in front of our teachers. They transformed into furry, scaly, or feathered beasts. Both powerful and beautiful, Salon had become a brighter blue Y-bird with a scissored tail. Miko changed into a gigantic field sloth, and Hetty became an indigo hare with long, slender ears. "Cherry, it's your turn," said Master Sunback. I squeezed Cherry's hand, and she walked out on the front of the court. She did the move I had seen her practice, drawing one arm back like she was shooting an arrow. With a long exhale, Cherry grew and grew and grew. Our jaws dropped open. Her guardian form was even bigger than Miko's. She was a butter-colored bear with thick fur. She flexed her clawed paws, revealing webs of skin between her fingers. "Are you kidding me?" She threw up her arms and shouted, "A ghillie bear! I'm a ghillie bear!" We jumped to our feet and cheered. As we resumed to our seats, a wave of sadness rushed over me. I was so happy for Cherry, but I realized with a twist in my heart that if I didn't pass the test, I might not ever see her again. Master Sunback continued to call trainees to the front. Behind me, I heard Rella whispering the words of the chant over and over. I knew them well because I had memorized them myself. When it was her turn, Rella effortlessly transformed into the slinking silver leopard. I was the only trainee left sitting. My heartbeat thumped and my ears so loudly that I nearly didn't hear Master Sunback call my name. "Plum, it's your turn now, my dear." I stood and walked slowly towards the front of the court. I turned to face away from the others. It was now or never. I could whisper the chant and no one would know. The words were on the tip of my tongue. "Plum," said Master Sunback. "Whenever you're ready." I could feel the whole academy holding its breath, waiting. I held my breath too. The words of the ancient chant pouted in my thoughts. The weight of the shell pendant rested against my collarbone. "What was your dream for me, Mother? Something special, something great?" I know deep in my heart that she would have loved for me to be a guardian, but not like this. I bowed my head. "I'm sorry, Master Sunback," I whispered. I can't do it." "Plum," she started to say, but I didn't hear the rest. I was running away from Lotus Court, the twilight flies a blur of light in my tear-filled eyes. Chapter 28. I lay on my mat listening to Cherry snore. I knew I would miss everything about her, even this. While the other novices had celebrated, Cherry had stayed with me. She hadn't tried to make it better because she knew nothing could make it better. I rolled over on my mat, and there was no use in wondering if I had made the right decision. It was too late. I had failed. No matter what Master Sunback said, now I would go back to Grandma and Grandpa with nothing to show for my time here. And then what? What would I become now? I heard a soft tapping coming from downstairs. I sat up. It was still hours before dawn. I pulled on my robe and tiptoed down the stairs. When I opened the front door, I found Sam waiting there. "Sam, don't try to..." Before I could finish, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me out the door. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Where are we going?" "To the kitchen garden," he said, pulling me faster. I sighed. "I don't want to see it. It will make me too sad to say goodbye." "I'm not taking you there to say goodbye," said Sam. "I'm taking you there to transform." "What? I can't. You saw me. It's over." He pointed up. The full moon had arced through the sky and was now sinking towards the horizon. "It's not over yet. The moon hasn't set." Sam led me all the way to the pepper patch. "Plum, if you try again and you can transform, we can tell Master Sunback and you'll be able to stay." I shook my head. "I can't. Listen, I've seen when you're working here. You're a different person. I can't explain it. I just know it's the same place where you are really you. Transforming is harder than singing to eggplants." Sam reached out to put his hand on my arm and then pulled it back. "Please try. If you go, I'll be... Well, just give it one more shot, all right?" I nodded. I know what it felt like to need a friend. "All right, I'll try." He smiled and backed away to give me space. I took a deep breath and shut my eyes. I tried to do what Master Sunback always said in her class and clear my mind. But my thoughts were humming like a hoverbot motor. What would my mother want? What do I want? I don't want to leave my friends. I do want to see my grandparents. I want to become something wonderful. I shook my head and took another deep breath. Why was it so hard to let my thoughts get out of my way? I didn't know why, but I sank to my hands and knees, like I always did when I weeded garden beds. I felt the soft, moist soil beneath my fingers. I breathed in its damp, rich scent. It was a smell of life flowing back and forth between living things. Oh, it would be so hard to say goodbye to this garden. But maybe the time had come. I listened to the breeze gently, ruffled the leaves around me. I heard the crickets singing. Their song seemed to say, a beautiful night, such a beautiful night. I breathed in again and caught the faint whiff of blossoms all the way from the lotus court. Those same old worrying thoughts tried to sneak into my head, but they felt less important now. I pushed them away and imagined them vanishing like mist clearing on a warm day. Breathe, there is nothing but the soil beneath my hands, the crickets in the wood, their song in the night, my breath in my body. I wasn't sure how long I knelt in the dirt like that. Finally, it was time. If I had to leave Lotus Island, I was ready. I'm sorry, Sam, I called out. I tried, but I just couldn't. My eyelids fluttered open. Sam stood there grinning at me. What? I asked. And then I looked down at my hands. No, not hands. Hooves. I can't believe it, said Sam. You're a rowan. What the heck is a rowan? I stamped my hooves and whipped my head back and forth, trying to look at my body. No one had mentioned that when you transformed, it was really hard to tell what you had transformed into. Sam laughed at me and led me to the garden shed. The sun had come up bright enough that I could just make out my reflection in the window glass. Apparently, a rowan was a tall, deer-like creature with strong legs and a strawberry-brown coat. I dipped my head, swaying my slender red antlers back and forth. I didn't feel that uncontrollable surge of power I had felt when I had spoken the chants. I just felt like me. Rowans are super ancient animals, said Sam. I've only seen pictures of them in books. A rowan, I whispered, and then I laughed. I can't believe it! I did it! I knew you could do it, and just in time, too. Sam pointed to the horizon, where the full moon was sinking fast. Let's go find Master Sunback. With a bow of his head, he transformed into his wolf-hound form and took off running across the grass towards the lotus court. I looked after him, slowly at first, to get the hang of my new form. I only tripped twice, not bad for my first time on 4 legs. And then I was galloping. I had never moved so fast. I caught up to Sam, then passed him. We ran and ran, my hooves flying across the grass, the wind in my antlers, the world whizzing by in a green blur. Sam and I slowed as we crossed the empty lotus court, searching for Master Sunback, but it was still so early. No one was awake. Down there on the beach, Sam called, I see someone! I trotted after him down the steps of the shore. Together we galloped across the wet sand, letting the ocean spray fly behind us. At the far end of the beach sat an enormous gold-red lizard. As we approached, she shifted and shrank and became Master Sunback, I called, slowing to a walk. Ah, Plum, she said with a smile. I always knew you would figure it out. She winked at Sam. Looks like I'm not the only one who believes in you. Sam and I both gave ourselves a little shake, releasing our guardian form, and then bowed to our teacher. It was like you said, Master Sunback, I told her. I just had to get out of my own way. And now every one of us has passed and become a novice. Master Sunback's smile faded. Not everyone. Unfortunately, I had to speak privately with Rella. I tried to advise her many times before the test, but she went against everything I told her. She relied on shortcuts for her transformation, and I'm afraid I cannot let her stay. Gosh, as much as I didn't get along with Rella, I didn't want this for her. I knew she would be devastated. My hope is that in time Rella will find her place in the world, said Master Sunback. Each of us needs that. She rested her hands on our shoulders. Today I am happy. The Guardian Academy has a wonderful new class of novices. Our islands are at peace. And the cooks have made sweet taro porridge for breakfast. Go run and be happy too. Sam and I took one look at each other. We didn't need to be told twice. We transformed back into our guardian forms and took off racing up the beach. The sun rose higher behind us, washing all of Lotus Island in golden beams of light. Chapter 30. The next day I waited with the others on the beach and watched the small blue mail boat pull up to the dock. Our first batch of mail from our family, said Cherry, hopping from one foot to the other. I'm so excited. Salon held a thick envelope. I'm even more excited to mail this letter home and tell them I'm a novice. I smiled down at my own letter. I wondered how my grandparents would react to the news. I wish I could be there when they read it. The only sad thing about becoming a novice is that I would have to wait longer before I had the chance to go home and visit them. The next step in our guardian training would be to learn how to control and magnify our powers so that one day we could use them out in the world. We would continue to learn about meditation, defense, and healing, but we could also start to focus on one element depending on what type of guardian we were. All the other kids had been easily labeled as heart, hand, or breath guardians, but it was so obvious where I should fit. Our teachers had held a special meeting and decided that since I was so good with plants, I should study heart with Brother Chalad. It bothered me that once again I wasn't like everyone else, but I was happy to see a heart guardian and ready to dive into my studies. The mail boat docked and the captain started handing out the mail. I saw Rella standing alone and reading a letter. The mail boat would be taking her back to Nakan Island. She had stayed very quiet the past day and hadn't even said goodbye to Hetty or Cherry when she packed up her things in our room. She had been so mean to me, and I definitely didn't think I could call her a friend, but I also felt sad for her. Rella, I said, jogging up to her, hey, I just wanted to see if you were okay. She looked up from the letter she was reading, and her usual cat-like smile returned. Better than okay, actually. She held the letter out to me. Dear Rella, I have been informed that you failed the first test to become a novice. I would like to extend an invitation for you to come and work with our team in the Office of the National Prosperity in Nakan Island. Bright young talents such as you are always welcome here. Sincerely, Lady Uban. I handed the letter back to Rella. Are you going to accept? She snatched the paper from my hand. An invitation to work with the wealthiest family on the islands? Of course I'm accepting it. Only a farm girl like you would ask such a question. Even though it was nice of Lady Uban to give Rella the opportunity, something about it also seemed strange to me. I wondered whether Sam or Master Sunback knew about the offer. But I smiled at Rella and held out my hand to her. I'm just happy for you, Rella. Good luck and take care of yourself. She looked down at my fingers, and I thought she would walk away. Instead, she shook my hand. Thanks, Plum. You too. While she boarded the boat, I ran back to where Sam and Cherry stood talking. The mailboat captain came back with packages for both of them and a thick envelope for me. Oh, it's a letter from my grandparents. I sniffed the paper. It smelled just like our kitchen, and a little like goat breath. Grandma, and Grandpa wrote that they were both doing well, and they gave me a full account of the garden in Tansy. They missed me, but they were happy knowing I was doing something new and exciting. I reached into the envelope and pulled out a paper packet. Chai melon seeds, I exclaimed. Yes, just you wait. These are the best. Well, what are we waiting for, said Sam. Let's go plant them. Seriously, said Cherry, I want some chai melon ice cream as soon as possible. In the garden, my friends laughed and joked behind me as I knelt in the beds. I gave my shell pendant a little squeeze. Then I gently ran my fingers through the damp, dark soil until I found a pair of wriggling red worms. Hey, friends, I whispered to them, will you show me the best place for these melons? The worms pointed me to a nice open patch at the end of the bed where I planted the seeds. If there was one thing I'd learned, it was that the worms were usually right. The end. Legends of the Lotus Island into the shadowy mist. Plum and her friends are traveling to misty Bokati Island. There they will study the mysterious Guardian Master M, who is the keeper of the ancient Bokati forest there. The field trip comes just in time for Plum, who still can't figure out why she's so different from the other novices on Lotus Island. At first, Plum doesn't know what to make of this quiet and sometimes gloomy place, but it doesn't take long to discover that Bokati Island is brimming with an incredible array of fascinating animals and plants. When an unseen force begins to destroy the trees, putting the entire ecosystem at risk, Plum and her classmates must spring into action. Plum is determined to help, even though she's hiding secrets of her own, guardian powers from even her closest friends. Here's a little bit about the author, if you'd like to pause and read there. If you are meant to be a guardian, then your guardian form is already inside you waiting. And that is Legends of Lotus Island, The Guardian Test by Christina Soontornvat. Illustrated by Kevin Hong. Thank you so much for reading this Part 2 book with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. You are awesome, and keep reading.